Class, we're going to pick up on creating a database in your Access textbook for session 1.2. We will look at opening an Access database. We will copy and paste records from another Access database into the one that we created previously. We will navigate a table data sheet. We will create and navigate a simple query, a simple form. We will also create, preview, navigate, and print a simple report. We will use the help in Access, and we'll also learn how to compact, backup, and restore a database. So if you're turning your textbooks to page 26, we're going to look at copying records from another Access database. So the Kimberly database file that you need will be located in Blackboard under your course data files and also under the course content for this specific week. So we'll select the Start button. We will navigate to Access 2016. And from here, what we're going to select is Open Other Files. And this will depend on where you have actually stored your file. So I'm going to browse to my file. I have it saved currently on the iDrive, and yours may be on your desktop or in your documents or downloads. Again, it's specific to where you've saved it. Okay, I've selected Kimberly. We're going to select Open. As you can see, it's similar to the database that we created previously. It does have one table called Appointments. We're going to double click on that table to open it. We're going to select the data sheet selector for this specific table, which will highlight all 65 records. Here on our home ribbon, we're going to select Copy. From there, we're going to close the actual appointment table. And because you've copied data, it's asking, would you like to save it on your clipboard? And we want to say yes. So from here, we're going to select File, and we're going to close the Kimberly database. So the only point in that specific database was to copy the contents of a specific table, and then we're going to navigate and go back to the database that we created previously and insert that information into the table we have. So we're going to select Riverview. From here, you can see the visit table that we had created previously. We're going to double click on that. We're going to come down to where our star, which means it's the next record. Your arrow should turn to an arrow that points to the right. You're going to select that row. On your home ribbon, we're going to select Paste. It will ask you to confirm that you're going to paste the 65 records. Are you sure? And we're going to select Yes. So at this point, you can basically see that we now have a total of 75 records. Previously, from what we had created the visit table, we had 10. One quick note, in order to copy any information from one table to the other, they have to match as far as the specific fields. Okay. If for some reason this one would have had an additional field, we would have had additional records here that would not have matched and would have created issues in your actual table. So you can only copy data from one table to another that has the same fields. Okay, so you can't just kind of mismatch. From there, basically, we're going to look at navigation buttons that are included. So at the bottom, you have your first record. You have a previous record. This one tells you you're on 11 of 75. You can go to the next record, you can go to the last record, or you can go to the next blank record. Here, you can actually type in a specific number to pull up a record that you're looking for. You can search for specific words. So if we wanted to look up Paul, we can type in that word and it will look for that specific word. All right, so now that we've kind of looked at navigating, we're going to close the visit table. And now we're going to look at creating a simple query. And basically a query is just a question that you ask. What information do you need to be pulled from tables or whatever objects you have available? So here at the top, we're going to select the Create ribbon, and from here, we're going to select the Query Wizard. Sorry. So once we select the Query Wizard, we're going to use the Simple Query Wizard. Say that like 3 times. So from here, basically what you can see, it says, which fields do you want in your query? Once we move forward in Access, we will have multiple tables and queries available. Currently, we only have one table. It tells you that it's a table, and it tells you the name, so it's Visit. So it automatically populates and tells you what you have to select from. From there, basically, from this table, it tells you these are the available fields in that specific table, and you can select those to be a part of your query. The navigation buttons here in the center basically allow you to do each field at a time. You could do all of the contents, all of the available fields at once. Okay? You could move them all back, and then of course you can move them individually. So the first one we moved over was Visit ID. We're going to select Visit Date, and we're going to select Reason. And then we're going to select Next. So we should only have 3 selected fields over on the right box. And we're going to select Next. Here we have to give it a name. And here we're going to name this Visit List. And we're going to select Finish. So you can see now in our navigation pane over to the left, we now have another object, which is a query, and we've called it Visit List. All it does is take the information from the table that we had, and it only pulled 3 specific fields for the ID, the date, and the region. Okay. Again, you can navigate through this just like you did in your table, using your specific navigation buttons here at the bottom as well. All right, so we're going to select Close. And now what we want to do is we're going to look at creating a simple form. So again, on the Create ribbon, we're going to select Form under Forms. And all it did was take the information that's currently in your table and put it into a form format. One quick note here, if you have multiple tables, the table that is highlighted, so this table is currently highlighted when I selected forms, that would be the table that it would create the form for. So you have to be careful. So if you have multiple tables, make sure the one that you're trying to create a form for is the one that you have selected. All right, so basically you can see from here, it just puts the information that was in our table into a form format. Okay. Again, you can use your navigation buttons to navigate through your form. So now we're going to save and close our form. So if we select Close, now it's going to ask us if we want to save, and we're going to say yes. And then we're going to call this Visit Data. And we're going to select OK. Now you can see we have another object over in our navigation pane called for Forms, which is called Visit Data. Next, we're going to look at creating a simple report. All right. So again, if you have multiple tables, you need to be careful that you're selected on the table that you are trying to create the report for. We're going to select the Create ribbon once again, and then we're going to navigate over to Reports, and we're going to select Report. So from this, it just takes the information that we had in our table. It puts it in a more user-friendly format, something easier to read. Other than just printing it out, it gives you options to have headers, put your business logo, things like that, okay? The thing here that we have to be careful with is to make sure that our information is inside of where we print. So these dotted lines that are appearing are basically your print preview. So if this would print, it would print this on page 1 and this on page 2, and so forth. So we have to go in and modify our spacing. So what we want to do is, as you can see here, this is like in an orangish color yellow. Once that area is highlighted, you can put your arrow in between, and then you can modify the size of that cell. Just for modifying the visit ID, it pulled all of our information in here. So what you would want to do is just to kind of play with your information so you can make it in a more user-friendly format, but that it's spaced appropriately. So you wouldn't want to have your information all jumbled up, because what you could do, in essence, is to have your information and it all be, and this be just empty space on your page. So you need to space it appropriately. So just kind of look at your information to make sure it fills out the way it should be, and that is more user-friendly and easier. The appearance of it is appealing. All right, so if we scroll down to the bottom, and again, remember we have 75. So you can see from here that this 75 is a little scrunched up, so we're just going to make that a tad bigger so you can read that. And then you can also see from here that page 1 of 1 is actually split between the pages. So we're going to select it, and then we're going to drag it over. Okay? So now it should be on the page 1 of 1. All right, so now we're going to look at printing our report. So here on our ribbons, we're going to select File. We're going to select Print. Sorry, give me 1 second. We need to save. My apologies. So we're going to select Close. We're going to say Yes, and then we need to name it Visit Details. Okay, and we're going to say OK. All right, so now we want to actually print our report. So we're going to select File. We're going to select Print. Okay, we're going to select Quick Print. And mine has been set to save as. Give me 1 second. So again, with our details, make sure that you have your visit details open, File, Print, Quick Print. And from here, I have to change my settings on my printer. So my apologies for that, because it's set to print as a PDF. But basically, your option should be your printer should show up, and then it will show you basically your print preview. Another option here is under your view. You can select Print Preview, and then it shows you what it looks like on one page. So it's going to show you that there's going to be 3 pages printed. One thing to note here is that this is really not that appealing, so you may want to go back and make some changes in here to get your information spread out evenly across your actual report. Okay, so we're going to close that. Next, on page 41, we're going to look at using the Microsoft Access Help. So from here, our question mark at the top right corner, if you put your mouse over it, it's going to say Microsoft Access Help, and it gives you a shortcut key. So basically it tells you can press F1 on your keyboard to get the same functionality. Okay, if we select that, sorry, I'm impatient. I shouldn't have clicked it so many times. All right, so let's try that again. All right, so once I was patient, I only clicked it once. It brings up our help, and then here you have the ability to type in search, whatever you're searching for. So we're going to type in navigation pane. Okay, and then we're going to select the hourglass or magnifying glass. So from here, we're going to select on Manage Access Database Objects, and it gives us information on that. So if at any point you're working on an assignment and it has a specific term or some function, or you're supposed to create something and you're very unsure, you can always use the Help feature to help you pull that information out. All right, next, at the bottom of page 41, we're going to look at managing a database. So one of the main tasks involved in working with database software is managing our databases and the data they contain. Some of the activities involved in database management include compacting and repairing a database and backing up and restoring a database. By managing your databases, you can ensure that they operate in the most efficient way, that the data they contain is secure, and they can work with the data effectively. So now we're going to look at on page 42, compacting and repairing data. So from the figure 130, basically you can see over time as you delete and move things around, it could create spaces within how your data is stored. So basically compacting a database rearranges the data and objects in a database to decrease its file size, thereby making more storage space available and enhancing the performance of the database. So basically all it does is look to compact the information in the most effective and efficient way possible. So on page 43, we are going to, and at this point, please make sure that all of your objects, your access objects, which we now have a table, a query, a form, and a report, that they're all closed. We're going to select File. We're going to select Compact and Repair. And in that short second, you should see the little hourglass pop up and it's complete, so it doesn't take that long. The other thing we're going to look at is backing up and restoring a database. So backing up a database is the process of making a copy of the database file to protect your database against loss and damage. The backup database command enables you to back up your database file from within the Access program while you're working on your database. The important thing about this, so as you're working on your assignments and different things in Access, if you have to import something, at one point we'll start importing Excel, Word documents, and different things like that. So it would be a good idea to have a backup copy before you start at those. So if your import goes wrong, you can always go back to your starting point without having to go back through, because one thing you have to remember, any information you add, specifically like in a table, when you add that information and close that table, it puts it in the order based on the primary key. So it would be very difficult to go back in and figure out what was the original information compared to what you just added. So always do a backup copy. So if we look at page 44, we're going to do that backup. So if we select File, we're going to select Save As, and then here is where we're going to select our backup. So we're going to select Backup Database, and then we're going to do Save As. Here's the thing. So when you select that, what it does by default is put today's date, which is a good indicator that that's when you backed it up last. If you were creating multiples like every few hours, you would need to figure out some system for that. But if you're only working on it daily, then or every so many days, how often, you have to figure out your system on how often you should create a backup. But from here, we're going to select Save. So if I would go in and continue working on this and make changes and it didn't go appropriately, I could always go back to my backup and start from that point instead of having to redo everything. Okay? I hope that makes sense.